All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Today, we're going to be tackling this article called The Myth of Passive Income: 5 Strategies the New Rich Use to Build Wealth.
Catchy title.
It is catchy, right? And honestly, this is something that I think we've all kind of thought about, this idea of like sitting back and the money just rolling in.
Yeah.
But this article was basically arguing that,
It's not really real.
yeah, it's not really a thing.
It's a myth.
Yeah.
A total myth.
And so that's what we're going to try to unpack today.
Okay.
So the article starts out by, really addressing this idea that true passive income, where you're literally just doing nothing and the money's coming in,
Yeah.
is super rare.
Yeah, it's like, you see it all the time on these, online ads and stuff like that. Like,
All right.
make thousands of dollars a day doing nothing
While you sleep, right?
while you sleep. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like, most of the time that's just not realistic.
No.
Yeah.
It's really not. And I think, the article's point that it's more of a spectrum
Yeah.
is good. I'm like, things can be more or less passive,
Right.
but there's almost always some level of effort involved.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like even something like, investing in the stock market,
Right.
which is often touted as, a way to generate passive income.
Right.
You still have to do your research and choose your investments and manage your portfolio.
Yeah. Or even something like, I don't know if you've ever looked into those like dividend stocks or things like that.
Yeah.
It still requires,
You still have to pick the stocks.
yeah, you got to pick the stocks. You got to do some research. You got to figure out
Exactly.
what companies you think are going to be around for a while.
Yeah, and even then, you're still relying on the performance of those companies.
Right.
Which is, something that you can't fully control.
Right. Exactly.
So even something that seems as passive as that still has, some element of risk and effort involved.
Totally. Yeah. And so the article goes on to say that, that it really is more about achieving financial freedom. Like that's kind of the end goal that we're all really aiming for.
Yeah, I think that's a much more realistic and helpful way to think about it.
Yeah.
Because, financial freedom means having the ability to make choices about your time in your life.
Right.
Without being constrained by, having to work a job you hate or living paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly. Yeah, you have more options.
Exactly.
You have more flexibility.
Yeah.
So that's really what this article is kind of unpacking.
Yeah.
Is okay, if passive income
Yeah.
is this myth that we've been told, what are some actual concrete strategies
Right.
that we can use to achieve that financial freedom?
Okay, cool. I'm excited to hear what they are.
Yeah, me too. All right, so the first strategy that they talk about is this idea of monetizing your expertise as intellectual property.
Okay. This sounds a little fancy.
Yeah, it sounds a little intimidating. Like,
Yeah.
what does that even mean?
Right.
But basically what they're talking about is, you have skills, you have
Right.
knowledge,
Yeah.
and there are ways to package that
Okay.
into something that you can actually sell.
Okay.
So the article gives some examples like online courses,
Yeah.
writing a book,
Okay.
even if it's like a niche topic,
Yeah.
workshops, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, those are all things that, I've seen people do successfully.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting because it does require
Effort up front.
a lot of effort up front, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to create the course or write the book.
Right.
But then once you've done that, you have this asset
Yeah.
that can potentially generate income for you
Right.
for a long time,
Over and over again.
over and over again with, relatively low maintenance.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this in terms of, like what skills or knowledge do I have
Right.
that I could potentially package this way?
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listeners are thinking about the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what are you good at? What do
Yeah.
you know a lot about?
Yeah, what are you passionate about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And could you create something, whether it's a course or an ebook or something like that,
Yeah.
that you could actually sell?
Right.
So that's strategy number 1.
Okay.
Strategy number 2 is this idea of turning expenses into revenue streams.
Okay.
So this one's a little bit more,
Businessy.
yeah, a little bit more businessy.
Yeah.
But the article gives this example of like, let's say you own a small business
Okay.
and you're constantly having to outsource
Right.
your marketing materials.
Yeah.
You're having to pay a graphic designer to create all your stuff.
Right.
What if instead of doing that,
You hired your own.
yeah, you invested in building an in-house design team?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that's not something that every business can do.
Right.
But it's an example of how you can take something that's an expense
Yeah.
and actually turn it into a potential,
Revenue stream.
yeah. Because now not only are you saving money on
Awesome.
outsourcing those
Yeah.
services,
Right.
but you could also potentially offer those services
To other businesses.
exactly to other businesses in your industry.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, and it's like this double win, right? You're
Yeah.
cutting costs,
Yeah.
and you're also creating a new income stream.
Yeah, and it's like you're becoming your own supplier in a way,
Yeah, exactly.
which is really interesting.
And the article kind of challenges us to think about, like, even if you can't do something as big as like building a whole in-house team,
Right.
what are some smaller ways that you can apply this principle?
Yeah.
Like maybe you invest in a really nice camera
Yeah.
and lighting setup so that you can create your own marketing videos
Right.
instead of hiring a videographer.
Yeah. Or maybe you learn a new skill that
Yeah.
allows you to do something yourself
Right.
that you would have previously outsourced.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's really about thinking outside the box
Yeah.
and finding ways to kind of
Be more self-sufficient.
be more self-sufficient
Yeah.
and create those multiple streams of income.
I like it.
Okay, so strategy number 3
Yeah.
is a little bit more familiar,
Okay.
but the article puts a modern spin on it.
Okay.
This is the idea of renting out underutilized assets.
Okay.
So we've all heard of, like, renting out your spare bedroom on Airbnb, or
Right.
renting out your car on Turo.
Yeah.
But the article's saying it's not just about those things anymore.
Okay.
It's about thinking about, like, what do you own
Yeah.
that's just sitting there?
That's not being used.
Yeah, that's not being used.
Yeah.
That could potentially be generating income for you.
Okay.
So they give examples like production studios,
Okay.
specialized equipment,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of people out there who need access to those kinds of things.
Right.
But maybe they can't afford to buy them outright.
Exactly.
So renting is a great option.
Yeah, and so this ties into this idea of leverage that the article talks about, which is basically making what you already have work harder for you.
Yeah, I love that concept of leverage.
Yeah, that's a good one. Right.
It's like, instead of just having something sit there and depreciate in value,
Right.
you're actually using it to generate income,
Exactly.
which is really smart.
And so I was thinking about this in terms of, like, okay, what do I have
Right.
that I could potentially rent out?
Yeah.
And maybe it's something as simple as like a lawnmower
Yeah.
or a power washer,
Right.
or maybe it's something a little bit more specialized, like
A camera.
a camera or a drone or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's really about kind of taking inventory
Yeah.
of what you have and seeing if there's a way to make it work for you.
I like it.
Okay, so strategy number 4. This one is owning your business premises instead of renting.
Okay.
So this is a little bit of a different one.
Yeah.
But the article makes a pretty compelling argument for why this can be a good strategy.
Okay, I'm interested to hear why.
Yeah. So first of all, you're eliminating your rent expense,
Right.
which could be a huge cost for businesses.
Especially small businesses.
Especially small businesses, yeah. And then if you have extra space in your property,
Right.
you can actually generate rental income
Yeah.
by leasing out portions of it.
Okay.
So they gave an example in the article of a business owner who bought a multi-unit property.
Okay.
They use one unit for their business,
Right.
and then they rented out the other units.
Okay.
And that rental income actually covered their mortgage.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's like they were essentially,
Living for free.
running their business for free.
And building equity at the same time.
And building equity at the same time because they owned the property.
Yeah, that's really smart.
Yeah, so it's a long-term strategy.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can just do overnight,
Right.
but it's definitely something to consider
Yeah.
if you're in the right stage of business.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now we're on to strategy number 5.
Okay.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
This is Bitcoin for financial flexibility.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, this one threw me for a loop a little bit at first.
Yeah.
But basically what the article is suggesting is that instead of thinking of Bitcoin as something that you're going to buy
Right.
and then eventually sell for a profit,
Yeah.
you can actually use it.
For other things.
Yeah, to access funds
Okay.
without having to sell it.
How do you do it?
So they talk about these platforms that are specifically designed for crypto-backed loans.
Okay.
So basically you pledge a portion of your Bitcoin
Right.
as collateral
Okay.
to secure a loan.
Okay.
And this allows you to access the cash that you need
Right.
without having to actually sell your Bitcoin.
Okay, so you still own the Bitcoin.
You still own the Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and you still benefit from any potential future appreciation.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the article mentions that Bitcoin has historically appreciated at an average rate of 55% per year.
Wow.
Now, obviously, that's not a guarantee of future returns,
Right.
but it does.
Paint a pretty interesting picture.
Yeah, it's pretty compelling.
Yeah.
And so this kind of ties back into this idea of, the new rich are thinking about wealth differently.
Right.
They're not just looking for those quick wins.
Yeah.
They're thinking long term.
Yeah, they're playing the long game.
They're playing the long game.
Yeah.
And they're comfortable holding on to assets,
Yeah.
even if those assets aren't producing immediate cash flow.
Right, because they believe in the long-term potential of those assets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a different way of thinking about wealth creation.
It's definitely a shift in mindset.
Yeah. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
looking at all 5 of these strategies,
Yeah.
do you see a common thread that kind of ties them all together?
I think what all of these strategies have in common is this idea of being proactive
Okay.
and taking control of your own financial future.
Yeah.
It's not about waiting for something to happen.
Right.
It's about going out there and making things happen.
Yeah.
And it's about thinking creatively and strategically
Right.
about how to use your skills,
Yeah.
your resources,
Assets.
your assets
Yeah.
to build wealth.
Yeah. And it's not just about financial strategies. It's about
A mindset.
it's about a mindset.
Yeah.
It's about this willingness to learn
Yeah.
and adapt and even to take some risks.
Right, because, sometimes the biggest rewards come from taking the biggest risks.
Totally.
Yeah,
And so that's something that I think we can all learn from
absolutely.
regardless of
Or income level.
regardless of your income level,
Ah.
your background, your
Yeah.
experience.
It's about having that growth mindset and being open to new ideas and new possibilities.
Totally. And so I think the big question that this article leaves us with is
Yeah.
what can we learn from the mindset?
Of the new rich.
Yeah, the new rich.
Yeah.
How can we apply those principles?
To our own lives.
Yeah, to our own lives to achieve our own financial goals.
Yeah. That's a great question to ponder.
Yeah, something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, I think that's a wrap for this deep dive.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next time.
See you.